light on Sloane's floor is still on. Not glaring. Not bright. Just there. A thin rectangle of white in a building that has already decided the day is over. She doesn't look at it directly at first. She never does. She loosens the cuff of her blazer instead, fingers working the button free, with practiced patience, as if the fabric requires attention before anything else can be acknowledged. The office smells faintly of toner and polished wood, something neutral, engineered to disappear. Outside the glass wall, the city breathes at a lower volume now. Traffic reduced to a murmur. Elevators moving less frequently. Time thinning. The light remains. It has been this way for weeks. Maybe longer. Sloane no longer trusts her sense of when it started. She only knows the pattern. She stays late. Not because she has to, but because leaving feels like surrendering something unnamed. And every night, when she finally stands, rolling her shoulders once, she sees it. The same floor. The same office. The same quiet persistence. Rachel Morgan. Sloane tells herself it's operational awareness. A CEO should know who is working, when, and why. She tells herself it's data. A variable. An anomaly worth observing. Still, she pauses. Her reflection in the glass catches her first. Mid-40s. Immaculate. Hair pulled back with a precision that leaves no room for softness. There is a faint line between her brows she doesn't remember earning. She smooths it out with 2 fingers, then lets her hand fall. The gesture is unconscious. It happens every time. She looks again. Rachel's office is small. Functional. No art on the walls, no personal photographs visible from this distance. The desk lamp casts a pool of warm light that doesn't quite reach the corners of the room. Rachel sits slightly hunched forward, one leg tucked beneath the chair, fingers moving steadily across the keyboard. Not rushed. Not slow. Focused in a way that feels sealed, as if the rest of the world has been placed on mute. Sloane watches longer than necessary. There's something in Rachel's stillness that unsettles her. Not ambition. That she recognizes easily. It's something else. A familiarity she can't immediately place, which irritates her more than she cares to admit. Familiarity suggests history. And history, when examined too closely, has a way of asking for things. She turns away first. The elevator ride down is silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Her phone vibrates once. Then again. She ignores it. The numbers will be there in the morning. They always are. The next day unfolds with the efficiency she has built her life around. Meetings slot into place. Decisions are made cleanly. People speak, she listens, she responds. Her presence sharpens the room without effort. She notices distantly that this has become instinct rather than intention. At 14:0, the boardroom doors close with a soft, decisive sound. Glass table. Leather chairs. Sunlight filtered through motorized shades that stop just short of warmth. Sloane takes her seat at the head without ceremony. She doesn't need to announce herself. The room aligns around her. Rachel sits 2 seats down from the end. She has chosen a position that suggests neither deference nor ambition. A notebook rests unopened in front of her. Her hands are folded loosely, nails short, unpainted. She wears the same neutral palette she always does. Cream blouse. Dark slacks. Hair pulled back, but not tightly. There are wisps near her temples that refuse discipline. Sloane doesn't look at her. The presentation begins. Charts appear. Numbers move upward. Satisfaction indices, retention rates, client feedback metrics. Sloane tracks everything with the ease of someone who lives inside patterns. She asks questions. She corrects assumptions. She nods once, twice. Then, customer satisfaction rose 34% last quarter. The Q's voice is steady, informational. Proud, perhaps, but careful not to sound impressed. Sloane's pen stills. Much of that improvement, he continues, can be attributed to the restructuring of client relationship protocols implemented by Rachel Morgan. Silence settles. Not awkward. Not heavy. Just present. Sloane lifts her eyes. This time she really looks. Rachel's gaze is still on the table. For a fraction of a second too long. Then she looks up. Their eyes meet. It's not dramatic. There is no visible startle. Just a moment where something aligns and refuses to slide past unnoticed. Rachel's eyes are tired. Not dull, sharp, intelligent, but worn at the edges, as if sleep has been rationed carefully and thoughtlessly spent. There is restraint there, and something else. A watchfulness that feels older than 27 should allow. Sloane feels a faint, unwelcome tightening beneath her ribs. "Thank you," she says instead, voice even. Controlled. "Rachel, stay behind after the meeting." The words land without emphasis. Rachel nods once. A small movement. Contained. The meeting resumes. Discussion continues. But Sloane's attention has shifted. Not away from the room. She never loses control like that, but inward, where a question has begun to circle. Why her? The room empties efficiently. Chairs slide back. Voices lower. Laptops close. One by one, they leave until the door clicks shut behind the last executive. Only then does the space change. Sloane remains standing, hands resting lightly on the back of her chair. Rachel stays seated, posture straight but not rigid. The distance between them is deliberate, professional. Sloane walks to the window instead of turning immediately. Outside, the city moves on, indifferent. She watches the traffic for a beat longer than necessary. 3 years with the company, she says finally. Exceptional metrics. No formal requests for advancement. No complaints about workload. She turns. Rachel meets her gaze calmly. Too calmly, perhaps. "Why?" Sloane asks. Rachel's fingers tighten briefly against one another. She inhales, slow and measured. "I like my work." The answer is prompt. Polished. Inadequate. Sloane studies her the way she would a line item that doesn't reconcile. "No," she says quietly. "You don't." The word hangs between them. Not unkind. Certain. Rachel's lips part as if to respond, then close again. She looks down. Not in submission. In recalibration. Sloane feels it then. That recognition she couldn't name before. The way Rachel chooses silence when speech would reveal too much. The way she holds herself as if effort has become a kind of shelter. She turns back to the window. The glass is cool beneath her palm. Nobody likes work that much, she adds, almost to herself. Time stretches. Rachel doesn't fill it. Sloane exhales. The sound is quieter than she intends. "Dinner," she says, turning slightly. "Tonight. 8. There's a restaurant 2 blocks from here." Rachel looks up. Surprise flickers, brief but unmistakable. "You know it," Sloane continues. "Already sure. I'll see you there." It isn't phrased as a question. It isn't framed as a command either. It occupies a space between. Rachel swallows. "Yes," she says. "I know it. Good." Sloane gathers her things. The meeting is over. The day is not. The restaurant hums softly around them. Linen, low light, the clink of glassware. A private table, tucked away from the main floor. Sloane arrives first, as she always does. She orders wine without consulting a menu. Red. French. Something expensive enough to make the point irrelevant. When Rachel arrives a few minutes late, Sloane notices immediately. Not the lateness. The hesitation at the threshold. The way Rachel pauses, scanning the room as if deciding whether she belongs in it. Their eyes meet again. Rachel walks toward the table with a measured pace. Her code is simple. Dark. She has loosened her hair slightly. Not enough to be careless. Enough to suggest she thought about it. Sloane stands. The gesture surprises them both. "Thank you for coming," she says. Rachel nods, offering a small smile that doesn't quite settle. They sit. First, they speak the language they both know best. Polite. Neutral. Corporate. The food is discussed. The wine acknowledged. Their sentences curve carefully around anything personal. Sloane watches Rachel as she lifts her glass, the way her fingers wrap around the stem. The faint tremor that disappears once the glass reaches her lips. "Why do you work so much?" Sloane asks eventually. Rachel's gaze drops to the wine. The red catches the light, deep and opaque. "Because," she says slowly, "when I'm there, I don't have to think about other things." Sloane stills. "You're running," she says. Not a question. Rachel lets out a soft, humorless laugh. "And you?" she asks. "Didn't you?" The words are gentle. They land anyway. Sloane doesn't answer immediately. She watches Rachel instead. Watches the way courage and caution are negotiating quietly across her face. 6 months ago, Rachel continues, voice lower now, I ended a relationship. 4 years. I thought it was permanent. She stops, shakes her head once. I threw myself into work. It worked, until I realized I was becoming... She hesitates, looks up, holds Sloane's gaze. Like you. Something sharp flickers across Sloane's expression before she can stop it. Rachel doesn't look away. I admired you, she says, almost a confession. Your discipline, your strength. I thought, if I could be that focused, that self-contained, I wouldn't need anyone. Sloane closes her eyes briefly. When she opens them, something has shifted. Not broken. Softened. Exposed. And look where that got me, she says quietly. Sitting alone at dinner with someone who reminds me of who I used to be. Rachel's breath catches. Just slightly. But I admire you, she repeats, as if repetition might make it safer. Then you don't know me as well as you think. The air between them tightens. Not with heat. With awareness. Rachel looks away. I'm sorry, she says. I shouldn't have said that. No, Sloane replies, leaning forward just a fraction. You should have. Rachel looks back. Confusion. Something like hope. I lost myself after the divorce, Sloane continues. And when I finally looked up, there was no one left. Just work. Silence. She pauses. Then I saw you. Rachel's chest rises and falls. Once. Twice. What should I do? She asks softly. Sloane watches her for a long moment. Stop running. And you? Rachel asks. Will you? Silence. Sloane extends her hand across the table. She doesn't touch Rachel. The space between their fingers hums with intention. Maybe, she says, we could stop together. Rachel looks at the hand, then at Sloane. Her phone vibrates. The intrusion is immediate. Jarring. Reality pressing in. Sloane exhales sharply. I need to... I know, Rachel says, already nodding. Her smile is sad. Understanding. Sloane stands. Hesitates. This doesn't end here, she says. No? Monday? My office? 7. Rachel lifts an eyebrow slightly. Is that an order? Sloane smiles. Really smiles. It's an invitation. She leaves. Rachel remains, heart still racing, the weight of the moment settling into her bones. She watches the door long after Sloane disappears, her mind circling a single insistent thought. This isn't over. Not even close. Monday arrives without ceremony. It always does. The building feels different after hours. Not emptier, just quieter in a way that makes every sound feel intentional. Footsteps echo longer. Elevators sigh instead of chime. The air conditioning hum becomes something you can lean into if you let it. Rachel checks the time on her phone as she steps out of the elevator. 18:57. She exhales slowly, then stills, as if the breath itself might give her away. Sloane's office door is closed. That shouldn't surprise her. And yet it does. The glass wall is darkened, privacy film drawn halfway. Rachel stands there for a moment longer than necessary. Fingers curling loosely around the strap of her bag. She tells herself she's waiting to be exactly on time. She tells herself a lot of things. At 19:00 precisely, the door opens. Sloane stands there, jacket already off, sleeves rolled just enough to suggest she forgot to be deliberate about it. Her hair is still pulled back, but looser now. Not careless. Just lived in. Come in, she says. Rachel steps inside. The office is larger than Rachel remembers from passing glimpses. Not ostentatious. Clean lines. Warm wood. Faint scent of citrus and something darker. Leather, maybe. The lights are dimmed, not for atmosphere, Rachel realizes, but habit. Sloane doesn't need brightness to see clearly. Sit, Sloane says, gesturing to the chair opposite her desk. Rachel does. For a moment, nothing happens. Sloane doesn't rush to speak. She moves instead, sets her phone face down, straightens a file that doesn't need straightening, pours water into 2 glasses. The quiet stretches, but it isn't uncomfortable. It's deliberate, as if this is part of the conversation already. Rachel notices how Sloane's movements change when she's not being watched by a room full of people. Slower, less performative. Still controlled, but inward now rather than outward. Sloane finally sits. I didn't call you here to talk about work, she says. Rachel nods. She had already understood that. Still, Hearing it spoken lands somewhere just below her sternum. Good, Rachel replies. Because I didn't come here to talk about work. A pause. Sloane studies her, something thoughtful crossing her face. Not suspicion. Recognition. Then what did you come for? She asks. Rachel considers the question longer than is polite. She lets the silence do what it wants. When she speaks, her voice is steady, but quieter than before. I wanted to see if Friday was real. Sloane's gaze sharpens, not hardens, just focuses. And? She asks. Rachel shrugs slightly. I haven't decided yet. That earns her the faintest smile. Not approval. Interest. They sit like that for a while, 2 glasses of water untouched between them. The city glows beyond the window, lights scattered and distant, as if the world has chosen to remain just out of reach. Sloane leans back in her chair. You're different here, she says. Rachel lifts her eyes. Different how? You're quieter. Rachel almost laughs. Almost. I'm always quiet, she says. No, Sloane replies. At work, you're contained. Here, you're listening. Rachel lets that settle. She hadn't realized how true it was. I don't have to perform here, she says finally. You already know what I can do. The words hang there, layered. Sloane doesn't pretend to misunderstand them. Yes, she says softly. I do. They don't speak for a while after that. Time doesn't move forward so much as it pools. Sloane stands first, crossing the room toward the window. Rachel's gaze follows without permission. There is something intimate about watching someone from behind when they don't know you're looking. The slope of Sloane's shoulders. The way she shifts her weight slightly from one foot to the other, as if resisting an old ache. I don't usually invite people here, Sloane says. Rachel doesn't ask who she usually invites. The answer would be too revealing, no matter how it came. I know, Rachel replies. Sloane turns, surprised. How? Rachel gestures vaguely. You don't share space easily. The observation is gentle, accurate. Sloane considers her for a long moment. Then she nods once. There's something I want to show you, she says. Rachel's breath changes before she can stop it. They leave the office together, walking side by side through a corridor Rachel has never taken before. The carpet shifts underfoot, thicker, quieter. The lighting warmer. This part of the building feels private, as if it was designed to be forgotten. Sloane unlocks the door at the end of the hall. The space beyond is unexpected. It isn't an office. It isn't quite a room either. It's something in between. A terrace enclosed in glass, city stretching endlessly beyond it. A low couch sits near one wall. A bar tucked discreetly into another. Soft lighting, indirect and forgiving. And beyond that, a jacuzzi. Rachel stops just inside the threshold. This... She trails off. My decompression room, Sloane says lightly. Or that's what I tell people. Rachel steps farther in, drawn by the view. The city feels close here. Intimate. Alive. You don't go home, Rachel says, not accusing. Just noticing. Sloane watches her from a distance. Not always. They move through the space slowly, as if pacing matters. Rachel runs her fingers lightly along the back of the couch. The fabric is soft, worn just enough to suggest use. How often? She asks. Often enough. Rachel turns. And does it help? Sloane considers the question honestly. Sometimes, she says. Sometimes it just postpones things. Rachel nods. She understands that kind of postponement intimately. Sloane moves to the bar, pours wine without asking. The bottle is unfamiliar, the label elegant in a way that doesn't need translation. Rachel accepts the glass when it's offered. Their fingers brush, accidentally, officially. The contact is brief. It stays anyway. They sit on opposite ends of the couch, distance measured, intentional. The wine is deep, velvety, bitter at first sip. Rachel closes her eyes for a moment as the taste spreads. This is expensive, she murmurs. Sloane hums. So am I. Rachel laughs softly before she can stop herself. The sound surprises them both. It lingers in the air, lightening something that had grown too tight. They drink. Slowly. Not to escape. To stay. Conversation drifts. Not forward, but around. Small things. Neutral things. Sloane asks about Rachel's childhood. Rachel answers without details. Rachel asks about Sloane's favorite city. Sloane names one, then another, then admits she can't remember the last time she enjoyed any of them. At some point, Rachel realizes how close they've grown. Not physically, though the space between them has narrowed, but emotionally. The silences no longer feel like gaps. They feel shared. Sloane reaches for the bottle again, then stops. Her hand lingers midair. "Tell me if this crosses a line," she says. Rachel's heart stutters. "Okay," she replies. Sloane's hand lowers, rests on the glass table between them instead. "Do you think about me," she asks, "when you stay late?" The question is quiet. Careful. It doesn't demand an answer. It invites one. Rachel doesn't respond immediately. She watches the city instead. Lets the truth rise at its own pace. "Yes," she says finally. Sloane doesn't look away. "How?" she asks. Rachel exhales. "I wonder if you're lonely?" Something shifts in Sloane's expression. Not pain. Exposure. They sit with that for a long time. Rachel becomes aware of her body in new ways, the warmth of the wine in her chest, the softness of the couch beneath her, the quiet awareness of Sloane's presence beside her. Not touching, not retreating. Sloane shifts slightly, crossing one leg over the other. The movement draws Rachel's attention without asking for it. She notices the strength in Sloane's hands, the faint scar near her wrist. She wonders how it got there, and stops herself from asking. "Rachel," Sloane says gently. Rachel turns. "This can't be rushed," Sloane continues. "Whatever this is." Rachel nods. Relief and disappointment twist together inside her. "I know," she says. "I don't want it rushed." They sit in silence again. A long one. The kind that would feel unbearable anywhere else. Sloane leans back, eyes closing briefly. When she opens them, she looks softer, less armored. "I don't usually let people see me like this," she says. Rachel swallows. "Like what?" Uncertain. The word settles between them, fragile and honest. Rachel shifts closer. "Just an inch. Just enough to feel the change in air. I won't use it against you," she says. Sloane's breath catches, not audibly, but perceptibly. "I believe you," she replies. The city hums outside. Somewhere below, a siren passes and fades. Time continues, indifferent to the moment unfolding in this glass-wrapped room. Rachel glances at the jacuzzi, then back at Sloane. The thought is unspoken. It doesn't need to be voiced. Instead, she says, "I should go." Sloane nods, though something in her tightens. "Yes," she agrees. "You should." They stand together, not quite facing each other, not quite apart. The distance between them feels heavier now, charged with everything it contains. At the door, Rachel pauses. "This still feels real," she says, without turning around. Sloane's voice reaches her quietly. Good. Rachel leaves. Sloane remains, glass half full in her hand, watching the city as it refuses to stop. Neither of them feels finished. The city looks different from the terrace at night. Not bigger. Closer. Rachel notices it first. The way the lights seem to breathe when you're high enough, how the grid below softens into something almost intimate. She stands near the glass, hands resting lightly on the railing, coat still on, as if she hasn't decided whether she belongs here yet. Behind her, the door closes with a muted click. Sloane doesn't announce herself. She never does. Her presence arrives quietly, like pressure rather than sound. Rachel feels it before she turns. The shift in air, the sense of being joined without interruption. "You came?" Sloane says. Rachel nods. "You asked." That's true. It's also incomplete. They both know it. The terrace is warmer than Rachel expected. Heat coils subtly from beneath the stone tiles, engineered comfort disguised as luxury. The city hum drifts up in layers, traffic, voices, something rhythmic that might be music or might just be the city remembering itself. Sloane stands beside her, not too close. Close enough to share the view. They don't speak for a while. It feels intentional. Like a decision they're making together without acknowledging it. Rachel becomes aware of small things, the way Sloane's breathing changes when she exhales, slower now than it had been in the office. The faint scent of her perfume, something restrained and dark, layered beneath the sharper edge of wine she hasn't poured yet. "You don't have to stay," Sloane says eventually. Rachel doesn't look at her. "I know." Another pause. "I want to," she adds. That's when Sloane turns. She studies Rachel with an intensity that isn't corporate, isn't evaluative. It's personal in a way that doesn't flinch. Rachel holds the gaze, even as her pulse begins to mark time more loudly in her ears. Consent doesn't arrive as a declaration. It settles quietly into the space between them. Sloane gestures toward the bar with a subtle tilt of her head. "Wine?" "Yes," Rachel says. Then after a beat, "Please." They move together but not in sync. Sloane reaches the bar first, selects a bottle Rachel recognizes from a distant memory of tasting notes and aspirational menus. She pours slowly, careful not to rush the sound of liquid meeting glass. Rachel watches her hands. The steadiness. The way her fingers curl naturally around the stem, practiced and unself-conscious. Sloane hands her the glass. Their fingers touch again. This time neither of them pretends it didn't happen. Rachel's breath catches, just enough for Sloane to notice. She doesn't pull away. She also doesn't lean in. She simply stays. "Is this okay?" Sloane asks quietly. Rachel nods. "Yes." The answer feels like a release. Not explosive. Controlled. Chosen. They sit on the edge of the jacuzzi instead of the couch, close enough that Rachel can feel the warmth radiating through the stone. Steam curls lazily upward, carrying the faint scent of minerals and something clean, almost metallic. They drink. Silence stretches again, but it has changed. It's heavier now. Charged. Each second carries weight, as if the air itself is waiting. "Tell me something true," Sloane says. Rachel considers this. She swirls the wine in her glass, watches the legs cling to the crystal before sliding down. "I think about you when I shouldn't," she says finally. Sloane doesn't react immediately. She absorbs the words, lets them settle. "Tell me more," she says. Rachel's throat tightens. She doesn't look away. "I think about the way you stand at the window," she continues. "Like you're deciding whether to stay inside yourself or step out." Sloane's lips part slightly. She hadn't realized she did that. The standing. The nyasa. "I think," Rachel adds, softer now, "about how lonely that must be." The word lands between them. Lonely. Sloane exhales slowly. Her shoulders lower, just a fraction, as if she's put something down she didn't realize she was carrying. "You see too much," she says. Rachel shakes her head. "I see enough." They sit with that. With the city. With the steam curling around their ankles. Sloane shifts closer. An inch. Maybe less. Rachel notices immediately. Her body responds before her thoughts can intervene. A subtle leaning, an unconscious mirroring. Sloane notices that too. "Rachel," she says, voice low, steady. "If this goes any further." Rachel turns to face her fully. "I know. It changes things. I know," Rachel repeats. The repetition matters. It anchors the moment. Sloane lifts her hand slowly, deliberately, giving Rachel time to pull away if she wants to. She doesn't touch her face. Not yet. She rests her fingers lightly against Rachel's wrist instead, just above the pulse point. The contact is electric. Not because it's shocking, but because it's precise. Intentional. Rachel's breath stutters. Sloane feels it beneath her fingers. "Still okay?" she asks. Rachel nods. "Still okay." Sloane's thumb brushes barely against Rachel's skin. "Test." A question. Rachel answers by turning her hand slightly, letting their palms align. The city disappears. Not entirely. It recedes like background noise you only notice when it's gone. Sloane leans in, not quickly, not hesitantly, with a certainty that feels earned rather than imposed. She stops just short of Rachel's mouth. Their breaths mingle. Rachel can smell the wine on Sloane's lips, feel the warmth of her presence without contact. This is the moment where everything could fracture. Rachel closes the distance. The kiss is soft, brief, almost restrained enough to be mistaken for something else. Almost. It lasts just long enough for Rachel to register the reality of it. The texture of Sloane's lips, the way her hand tightens at Rachel's wrist, the shared exhale that follows. When they part, neither of them moves. Rachel's heart is pounding. Not wildly. Steadily. Like it's marking something important. Sloane's eyes remain closed for a beat longer than necessary. When she opens them, something has shifted. Not softened. Unsettled. We shouldn't, she begins. Rachel doesn't interrupt. She doesn't argue. I know, Sloane finishes, though the words feel less certain now. They sit there, the aftermath of the kiss reverberating through them. The warmth, the awareness, the unmistakable sense that something has crossed, even if nothing else has. Rachel becomes acutely aware of her body, the way her skin feels too sensitive, the way the night air seems suddenly cooler against her neck. She resists the urge to lean back in. Instead, she says, "That didn't feel like a mistake." Sloane looks at her, searching. "No," she admits. "It didn't." That admission destabilizes more than the kiss itself. They drink the rest of the wine slowly. They talk less now. When they do, it's fragmented. Unfinished thoughts. Half sentences. Rachel realizes with a kind of quiet shock that she doesn't want this moment to end. Not because she wants more, but because she wants to stay inside what it has already changed. Eventually, Sloane stands. "We should stop here," she says. Rachel nods. Yes. They don't touch again. Not because they can't, but because they choose not to. At the door, Rachel pauses. Her hand rests on the handle, fingers curled, reluctant. "I don't regret it," she says. Sloane meets her gaze. "Neither do I." Rachel leaves. Sloane remains on the terrace, city lights reflecting in the glass, the echo of that single kiss lingering like a fault line beneath everything she thought she had under control. Nothing feels stable anymore. The week doesn't fracture loudly. It thins. Rachel notices it first in the mornings, how the elevator ride feels longer, how the mirrored walls return her gaze too clearly. She adjusts her posture out of habit, smooths the front of her blouse, rehearses neutrality the way one might rehearse a language they don't want to forget. On Sloane's floor, the light is still on some nights. Rachel tells herself she doesn't look for it. She looks anyway. Work continues. Emails arrive. Meetings stack. Clients praise the team with the same enthusiasm as before. On paper, nothing has changed. The numbers don't know about a kiss. Metrics don't flinch at restraint. But the air has shifted. In meetings, Sloane's gaze finds Rachel more often now, and then leaves deliberately, as if staying would mean saying something she has chosen not to. When Rachel speaks, Sloane listens with an attention that feels heavier than approval. When Rachel finishes, Sloane nods once. Always once. Never more. They do not speak alone. They do not speak about the terrace. The silence around it grows dense. Rachel fills her days with precision. She arrives early. She leaves on time. She eats lunch at her desk again, though she had stopped doing that months ago. Her calendar becomes immaculate. Empty space is dangerous now. At night, sleep comes unevenly. She dreams in fragments, heat against her skin. The faint taste of wine. The pause before a kiss that seems to stretch indefinitely. She wakes with her heart racing, the echo of restraint sitting heavily in her chest. She doesn't text. She doesn't email. She waits. Friday comes quietly. At 1842, Rachel is still at her desk when a shadow falls across the glass wall of her office. She looks up instinctively. Sloane stands there. No blazer. Sleeves rolled again. Hair still pulled back, but looser than usual. Her expression is unreadable. Controlled, but tighter on the edges. Rachel stands immediately. Not out of obligation, out of something closer to instinct. "Can we talk?" Sloane asks. Rachel nods. Yes. They don't go to Sloane's office. They don't go to the terrace. They choose the small conference room near the stairwell, the one with no windows and a table too big for its purpose. The door closes behind them with a soft finality. Neither of them sits. Sloane remains near the door, hands loosely clasped in front of her. Rachel stands opposite, fingers resting against the edge of the table. The distance between them feels deliberate, negotiated without words. "I should have addressed this sooner," Sloane says. Rachel waits. She has learned the value of letting Sloane finish. "I crossed a line," Sloane continues. "And whether it felt like a mistake or not doesn't change the fact that it carries consequences." Rachel's chest tightens. "Yes," she says quietly. Sloane studies her face, searching for something. Anger, perhaps. Reproach. She doesn't find it. "You haven't said anything," Sloane adds. "There wasn't anything to say," Rachel replies. "That's not true." Rachel inhales, slow and controlled. "There was a lot to say," she corrects. I chose not to. Sloane absorbs that. The muscles in her jaw tighten slightly. I don't want you to feel pressured, Sloane says. Or misled. Or used? Rachel offers, not accusing. Just naming. Sloane flinches. Just barely. No, she says firmly. Never that. Silence settles again. It presses in on the room, thick and insistent. Rachel feels the urge to step closer, to bridge the space with something physical, grounding. She doesn't. The restraint costs her more than she expects. I meant what I said, Rachel says eventually. I don't regret it. Sloane closes her eyes for a brief moment. When she opens them, something has shifted, not softened. Weighted. That's the problem, she says. Rachel tilts her head slightly. It is, yes. Sloane exhales. Because I don't either. The admission lands hard. Rachel's fingers curl against the table. She lets the feeling move through her instead of away from her. Then why does this feel like a goodbye? She asks. Sloane doesn't answer immediately. She looks at the wall instead, at the faint scuff near the baseboard that someone never bothered to fix. Because I don't know how to protect both of us, she says at last. Rachel nods slowly. I didn't ask you to. Sloane turns back to her. You didn't have to. Another silence. This one longer. Heavier. Rachel becomes acutely aware of her breathing, of the sound it makes in the small room, of the way Sloane's presence seems to pull at her even now. I can handle complexity, Rachel says softly. I live in it, I know, Sloane replies. That's what scares me. The honesty in that unsettles them both. Sloane takes a step forward. Just one. Rachel doesn't move. The space between them narrows. Not enough to touch. Enough to feel. This can't continue, Sloane says. Rachel's heart stutters. She keeps her voice steady. Define this. Sloane hesitates. The pause says more than any answer could. Whatever we were becoming, she says finally. Rachel swallows. We didn't become anything, not officially, Sloane agrees. But emotionally. She stops. Shakes her head slightly. That's exactly the point, Rachel says. We're already inside it. Sloane looks at her, then really looks. The restraint in her posture strains, like something held under pressure for too long. I don't trust myself, she admits. Rachel's breath catches. She hadn't expected that. I trust you, Rachel says. That makes it worse. They stand there, close enough now that Rachel can feel the warmth radiating from Sloane's body. She notices the faint tremor in Sloane's hand as it lifts, then stops midair. The gesture remains unfinished. Sloane lowers it. I need distance, she says. Rachel nods. The agreement cost her something sharp and immediate. For how long? She asks. Sloane doesn't know. It shows. I don't know, she says quietly. Rachel straightens, reclaiming her space inch by inch. The movement feels deliberate, protective. Then I need clarity, she replies. Distance without direction just becomes avoidance. Sloane closes her eyes again. The words have landed exactly where Rachel intended them to. I'm not avoiding you, she says. Rachel's gaze softens. I know. You're avoiding what you want. The truth of it hangs between them, exposed and unadorned. Sloane steps back. The physical retreat feels louder than any raised voice. This conversation isn't finished, she says. No, Rachel agrees. It isn't. They don't resolve anything. They don't apologize. They don't reach for each other. Sloane opens the door. Rachel pauses at the threshold, hand resting briefly against the frame. She looks back once. I won't pretend this didn't happen, she says. But I won't chase you either. Sloane meets her gaze. Something flickers there. Gratitude, regret, desire held in check. I wouldn't ask you to, she replies. Rachel leaves. Sloane remains alone in the small conference room, the echo of restraint pressing in from all sides. Her phone buzzes in her pocket. Unanswered emails, decisions waiting. She doesn't move. Outside, the building settles into night again, indifferent and patient, as if it knows the story is not finished. Not yet. The distance doesn't announce itself when it ends. It loosens. Rachel feels it first on a Thursday evening, when the office is thinned to echoes, and the hum of the building settles into something almost companionable. She's finishing a report she could have sent hours ago, fingers moving steadily, deliberately, as if precision might quiet the restlessness beneath her skin. She doesn't look toward Sloane's floor. She has learned how to stop herself. The elevator dings somewhere down the hall. Footsteps approach, then pause. Rachel keeps typing, keeps breathing, keeps her gaze anchored to the screen even as her body recognizes the presence behind the glass wall before her mind allows it. A soft knock. Rachel closes her eyes for half a second. "Yes," she says. The door opens. Sloane steps inside. She looks different, not in any dramatic way. Still composed. Still exacting. There's an absence of tension around her mouth that hasn't been there in weeks. Her shoulders are lower. Her hands unclenched. "Do you have a moment?" she asks. Rachel turns slowly in her chair. She doesn't smile. She doesn't stand. "I do," she says. "Do you?" Sloane exhales. It sounds like relief. "Yes," she replies. "I think I finally do." They don't go anywhere else. They stay in Rachel's office. The choice matters. Sloane closes the door behind her but leaves the blinds open. The city remains visible. Present. A witness they are not hiding from. Rachel stands, not rushing, giving her body time to adjust to the proximity. The space between them is smaller than it used to be, but not intimate yet. Considered. "And I've been thinking," Sloane says. Rachel nods. "So have I. I didn't ask you to wait," Sloane continues. "And I don't expect you to have." "I didn't wait," Rachel says gently. "I lived." Sloane studies her. Something like pride flickers across her face, quickly tempered by humility. "I was afraid," Sloane admits. "Not of you. Of myself." Rachel tilts her head slightly. "Because you want things deeply." "Yes," Sloane says. "And because I learned a long time ago that wanting is dangerous." Rachel lets that settle. She recognizes the truth in it. She recognizes the cost. "I don't want to be your escape," Rachel says. "Or your exception." Sloane nods. "I know. I want to be chosen," Rachel continues. "In the open." The words land quietly. Firmly. Sloane steps closer. This time, Rachel doesn't step back. "I can't undo the power imbalance," Sloane says. "But I can stop pretending it doesn't exist." Rachel watches her closely. "What does that look like?" "Honesty," Sloane replies. "And patience. And letting this be seen for what it is, even if it complicates everything." Rachel feels something in her chest ease, not completely, but enough to breathe. "I can work with that," she says. Sloane's eyes soften. "Can you?" "Yes." The certainty in Rachel's voice is unforced. Grounded. Sloane reaches out slowly, deliberately, the same way she did on the terrace. This time, she doesn't stop short. Her hand cups Rachel's jaw, thumb resting lightly beneath her ear. The touch is warm, steady, asking rather than taking. Rachel leans into it. The kiss that follows is different from the first. There is no hesitation now. No testing. It's deeper, slower, shaped by everything they have already held back. Rachel's hands come to rest at Sloane's waist, fingers curling into the fabric of her blouse. Sloane's breath shudders just once before she steadies herself again. When they part, they don't move away. They stay close, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. "This doesn't solve everything," Sloane murmurs. Rachel smiles faintly. "Nothing worth having does." They leave the office together. Not immediately. They sit first, side by side on the small couch beneath the window, the city stretched out before them. They talk, not about rules or consequences or timelines, but about smaller things. What they miss, what they fear repeating, what it means to choose presence over protection. Later, they go to the terrace. The jacuzzi is empty tonight. Still. Waiting. They don't use it. Instead, they lean against the railing, shoulders touching, sharing the quiet in a way that feels earned rather than stolen. Sloane pours wine. Rachel declines after the first glass. She wants to feel everything clearly. They talk about Monday mornings, about expectations, about how this will look and how it might change. They don't pretend it will be easy. They don't rush toward certainty. At some point, Sloane rests her head briefly against Rachel's shoulder. The gesture is small, intimate. unprotected. Rachel stays still, honoring the weight of it. Time passes. Not dramatically. Gently. They don't make plans. They make space. When they finally part for the night, it feels less like an ending and more like a pause. Intentional. Sustainable. Rachel rides the elevator down alone, but not lonely. Sloane remains on the terrace, watching the city, aware now that solitude no longer means absence. Some choices don't close doors. They open rooms you learn to inhabit slowly. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't desire, it's staying. What does it cost to stop protecting yourself from the very thing you want? Some stories don't end when the moment fades. They stay with us, asking to be felt. If this story awakens something you recognize, you're welcome to share your truth in the comments. And if this journey stayed with you, consider subscribing to Secret Garden Stories and sharing it with someone who might feel seen. Your support helps this space grow, a world with more love, more honesty, and less silence. Thank you for being here.